just finished a Yerushalmi that says about this guy who was a ger. And he saw astrologically there was a terrible time to go out. And he went on a trip anyway, and he went through a dangerous situation, and he was saved. Yerushalmi says he went through a situation because he had questions in the first place, and we said it's like a midah keneged midah. If you trust in Baruch Shalom, he will take care of you, and if it takes you someplace to get there, so it's going to take you someplace to be saved. That's what it seems to say in Yerushalmi. He's not specific. The Alter is not specific about what exactly the Yerushalmi is saying. So let's continue here. In mine, Chibur, you don't have it, so I'm in Kufnun Beis. I just finished Yerushalmi, where I'm up to. Hare, from this Yerushalmi, Shabbateach Hashem, Ukol Kach Chozok, Barucha, Ad She'af Mokum Sakona, Hula Yechos Me'achayas Hatar for his klal. If he comes to a place that's full of wild animals, carnivorous animals that kill people, you will not be afraid of them. Klal at all. Who rochitz, and he trusts al habari. V'yanotzal mikol hasakonas, and he's safe from all sakonas. Rab goyim and things that happen. Kol shkein shebenogel shel sachayim shel yedog v'motzei loya af mokum shel ufi hanira iyaf shalola lahasik sham michyosei. And surely, when it comes to ordinary questions of life, he doesn't know how I'll have a parnasa or whatever, but it's not sakonis nefashos, but it's certainly not a pleasant situation. He doesn't see how I'll have a parnasa, he doesn't see where he's going to live, he doesn't see how things are going to work out. Surely there a person can have bitachon, even though he doesn't see how it's going to work out over here. And I'm having trouble reading. He should not be afraid in his heart, klal at all. El yismarich al b'tchaynoi b'Hashem. So yasig mashet tzorichlei. He should trust in Baruch Hashem, he's going to get what he needs. Lo yipolei ma me'Hashem dover lahatrifoi af m'kayim v'sheniroloi shevshel lahasig terev v'eis Hashem. It is not impossible for the Baruch Shalom to give him a parnasa, even in places where it seems, that, even places and times, that it seems it's impossible for him to get a parnasa. And he makes up his mind, he stands strong in his mind with clarity. Hashem yatrifo, the Eibush will take care of him. The way he's used to having it, he's not going to fall down. To him it seems the thing is already here, it's already prepared, he doesn't have to worry about it. Anything he needs, and he's not going to give up anything of what he's used to. It's going to happen to him the way it should be. Not the way it should be, the way it's been till now. This requires a lot of bitachon, because people are nervous about the future, but he should know that it's been good, it's going to be good. After he has to continuously either chazer psukim or the chazer machshava, that has been good till now and it will continue to be good. And in that way it will be good. Why? Because the Baruch Hashem is taking care of him. And he goes on, like the story where somebody came to Rava. He was, in those days, today they come around collecting money. there wasn't so much money around those days. He used to come collecting food. And he eat. Amalei said to him, "B'ma'at hasoid, what do you eat? What is your meal?" Amalei b'tana golas b'tuma v'yayin yoshin. My meal is fat piece of chicken, not a scrawny one, but a good juicy one. And yayin yoshin, and old wine. Old wine means the alcohol has come into it, it's not grape juice. It's aged. That's what I like. That's what I eat. That's what I'm rugged to eat. That I always eat. If that's the demands that you have, aren't you afraid that you're putting pressure on the tzibur to support you? And when you come to a gabbai tzedakah, for instance, you're going to insist on getting a lot of money because that's the kind of lifestyle you have. You can ask the question, why should you live such a lifestyle? But the question Rava asks him is a different one. Aren't you afraid of depleting depleting the coffers of the community? It doesn't apply in our times because people are very, very wealthy. There's a lot of money around. But in that time, times of poverty, so he said, aren't you afraid of you making a pressure on everybody to support you in such a lavish lifestyle? People don't eat that generally. You go to a chasana maybe to eat it, a yontiv maybe, but to eat every day such a way, aren't you creating a pressure on the community and duchke the tzibur? Amalei, otu mididhu koachilna, merachmona koachilna. Am I eating their food? From them I'm eating. I'm eating from the Eibishter. I'm not eating from them. What do you mean I'm making pressure on them? I'm eating from the Eibishter. Means what? That's what I'm used to. That's my standard. And the Eibishter provides it for me. It comes through them, but I'm not taking them. So the Gemara continues to say, it says like this. Oh, by the way, the Tanina, because we learned, because all eyes turn to you, and you give them their food at the right time. It doesn't say in their time, in his time. That means in his time, that Abraham gives parnos to each individual in his time. Meanwhile, the sister of Rava arrived. She had not come to visit in 13 years. She brought him a gift, a fattened chicken, and a bottle of old wine. Oh, my Rava said, Mighty Kamun, what is this taking place? What is this? Wow. We were just talking about fattened chicken and wine. Look at this. Oh, Malay, he said to him, I've pained you. He said to this Ani, come and eat. Come, get up and eat. Hari Lonim Izeh, Darchei Habitachon b'Hashem Kol Kach Chosod. The power that there is in Bitachon when you trust in Hashem is so powerful. Chosod mi'oid. She'ein shum davar nimna u'mussar mimenu. There's nothing that's impossible or strange that it should happen. Because this woman had arrived at that time without any warning. She had never come in the last 13 years. And she brought along what they were talking about. And this, it's so strong that the person has Bitachon. Bor Badati, you can be absolutely clear. She'enam Mischayev, L'shenam Mechuyev L'chis Chaye, Histapkus. It's not necessary for him to live a life of self-restraint or economically. Elo yochel lahasig michyosei l'fi hageloi v'tivoi. He can achieve whatever he wants. He can get whatever he needs, the way he's used to it, the way his nature requires it. The Alter went to a place with a talmid. It was a very Gvir used to support his yeshiva. And the Gvir gave him used to give him a nice sum of money to take back to the yeshiva. And the Alter went with a talmid. And they used to wait, when they came back, they would wait for a trolley car or a bus, probably a trolley car. And meanwhile, until the trolley car came, he used to walk a couple of boxes every block the trolley car stops. You guys never saw a trolley car, no. The bus stops, this trolley stops every block or 2 blocks. So he used to walk, meanwhile we'll walk. So he used to walk, and they kept walking, waiting for that trolley to arrive until they finally would get back to the yeshiva anyway, without the trolley. So you understand, it's still they saved the fare of the trolley. Once they went to this gvir and asked him for money or to get some money, the guy said, I can't help you, I don't have. So they went out, so the Alter said, okay, we're taking the trolley, and he stood up, we're going to wait for the trolley. He said, Rebbe, how come you always walk, you keep pushing off taking the trolley so that save the fare, and this time you're waiting dafka for the trolley to take it? So I'll tell you, he said, all the time when we travel, when I walk, after we get some money, so he said, I take the trolley on the money of so and so who gave us, on the money of the gvir who gave us the money. He's giving me the trolley ride. Now he didn't give me any money. Now I'm traveling under Bitachon's money. Bitachon's money? What's the problem? He didn't give us anything. Traveling under Bitachon's money. Let's travel big. That's precisely this story. If you're traveling with Hashem's money, live good. He says it here. He says it in Gabi Shemitah. We came across it already. He says it, and he lived that way himself. Doesn't mean. So when you ask Kash when he got money from the Gvir, why didn't he live that way also? Because it was the Gvir's money, and it may be that person that it was the Gvir's money. He took the money from the Gvir. It was for the Yeshiva. He tried to save it. You're allowed to use it for yourself, also for expenses. But if he could avoid it, he wanted to save Yeshiva's money. Masha Enkain, if he doesn't have money, it's not the Yeshiva's, it's staying out of his pocket, live big. No problem. Travel first class. Now, so he continues and he says, Bimhu Musugul Tarnagoz Betuma, and if he's a guy that he's cut out for Tarnagoz Betuma, V'yan Yosha, Gamzeh Yasik, Derech Habitachon. He's going to get it through Bitachon. If that's what's his thing, he's going to get it through Derech Habitachon. The Achashu Bateach B'Hashem, Oichel Mirachmona, since he's Bateach in the Baruch and he's eating the Baruch's food, Ein la Hagbil Bitachonai, Sheboifen Kozeh, Yochel Levtoyach Uvovan Acher Lo Yitachon. Once he's eating the Baruch's food, it's not shy to say, well, this way the Baruch gives me, that way he doesn't give me. He gives me whatever he needs. Or b'mokum zeh efshel lahavtia liftoyach u'b'mokum acher efshel liftoyach. Over here I can't get it. You forget about it. Kichaz Hashem hi le'ein tachlis. The Hashem's powers are unlimited. V'acher she'omed al daitoi b'ruach hazeh, and once he's made up his mind with this kind of a ruach, shevadai yazmin lo Hashem lefi hargeloi, the Rosh will certainly give him the way he needs, what he's used to. Umuftach boy oid yoiser me'avutech al keser shebakisai. He trusts a bunch more than he trusts the money in his pocket. She'enu shomer me'akanovim or misham mafsidim, because the money in his pocket could be stolen. Pickpocket could take it away. He could spend it. He could lose it. Ma'ashe'enkin ayidei b'tchoinoi who shomer we call him p'koyim. But through Bitachon, nothing can take that away from him. He's going to have it without any shayla. One of the things that they did, the Bachrim used to do, was, those were stark right in Bitachon, and they had to go someplace, take a train someplace, didn't have car fare, they would go and stand in line, a long line to buy tickets to go and stand in line. And that Bitachon, they'll have cars for it to get there. They didn't have a pocket penny in their pocket. They would go and stand in line, and inevitably somebody would come over, and then while they're next on line or something like that, and somebody would come over and give them money. It's just the Bitachon was like unbelievable. Now I saw people who lived with this. Mamish lived with this. But oid, shabatech ain't l'lo'osh l'ducha d'tzibur. A person has Bitachon doesn't have to be concerned with pressuring the tzibur. Me'achar shehu takiv be'emunosai she'oichel me'rachmona. Because he believes he's eating from the Eibishter. Once it's clear to him he's eating from the Eibishter, he's not taking anything from the tzibur. The tzibur is supposed to have it, it'll have. From Metzius, ain't not tzibur nice in life. The fact is the tzibur doesn't give him anything. Klal. V'chol ma sheyesh lo hu rak matnas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whatever he has, the Baruch Hu gave him b'matona. V'chomei d'chazinin sheb'mokim sheb'mikoydim lo hoya kantan HaKadosh b'tuma v'yan yoshan etzel rava. Just like we see in the story that there had been none of the chicken and the wine by Rava. He didn't have it. Dafka be'esh shebo b'otz gam ken achaysai. And Dafka, when he came, that's Dafka when his sister came. So Rosh says that Sholish Shana. He hadn't seen him for 13 years. And Viatar Negolas Betuma V'yayin Yoshan. Now, you can ask a question. She must have lived at a distance. She didn't live next door because he didn't see her for many, many years. And she came to visit. And she must have come from a great distance. And she brought this gift of food. I don't know, his chicken didn't get spoiled on the way to mine. I understand it was in a bottle. Maybe the chicken was, I don't know, maybe it was cooked or baked in a certain way that it could be taken. There are ways of doing that. But the question we should ask is that she set out on her trip with this gift sometime before. She had planned maybe a week before to come. And then she got things prepared, made the preparations, got the wine, got the chicken ready to go without refrigeration. They didn't have those days. Dried it out, I don't know what they did. People carried food in those days also. And she had prepared everything, and then the day she had gotten a ride or whatever it was, began to walk. And she came at that moment. And that was the moment the guy had Bitachon. So what does it mean? How does that work? The Bitachon works retroactively? Yes. The Bitachon works retroactively. There are many things in the world that everything has many, many possible outcomes. For example, let's say, just pick out something that the South had won the Civil War, which really depended on the Third Battle of Gettysburg, on the third day of Gettysburg. That's the whole war depended on that. After that, it was all over. There were other battles, but the Third Battle of Gettysburg was the end of the Civil War. And that depended on a charge by General George Pickett up a hill. And if Pickett had succeeded in getting to the top of the hill, I mean he did, but if he had succeeded in doing what he wanted to do, so the South would win a Civil War. We'd all have slaves. Don't feel bad. We'd all have slaves. We'd be living on plantations. We'd be selling cotton to the whole world. And the world would be a totally different world. That outcome, that outcome was a possibility. The Baruch Hu made this outcome come out, but that outcome was a possibility. Historically, it's a possibility. In our own lives also. There are many, many roads that could be taken, many things that could have happened to us. And this is the one that happened. There are many Bochum sitting in Yeshiva not in this room right now. You're sitting here right now. There are many Bochum among you have made a decision to come in now. Some of you are thinking maybe we should skip it. Say, Erev Yontif, I have things to do. And you decide to come anyway. After all, it's full of jokes and entertaining. Why should you go? So there are many things, the choices that you're making, there are many possible outcomes to those choices. When a person has Bitachon, the Rosh knows he's going to have Bitachon. In case he has Bitachon, the outcome is good. It's prepared for him from before in case Leib Bitachon. Rabbi's sister decided to travel at that time, that day, with that food. And if this person hadn't had Bitachon, so she would have changed her mind in the middle of the trip. She would have had a different outcome to the trip. Or she would have lost the chicken along the way. Or a dog would have come and eaten it out of her purse, out of her suitcase. It would be a different outcome. And the person says, "Oh, how did this happen? I had all these good things to bring you. I put down the suitcase and this dog came along, a cat came along, I ate the whole thing. I feel so terrible, I had all these gifts for you. You don't know why. The gift was not supposed to arrive. The food was not supposed to arrive." Those who hear this, and they go out of here with a chizuk in understanding how the world works and Hashem runs the world. So because you made the choice of coming here, you're going to hear that. Those who don't come here can go through life without understanding it or hearing it ever. And you can become a big talmid chacham and a rav and everything else you want to be, and you still go around without understanding how Hashem runs the world. Sometimes you see a coincidence. Oh my, how cute a coincidence. How blah, blah, blah. But you don't know such a thing as Bitachon, you don't know such a thing as Hashem takes care of you. You don't know. You got a beard, you got a bekisha, all the requirements. But you don't know the bottom line is that Hashem runs the world. Who knows it? The people in this room right now. Will you remember it? That depends on a lot of factors inside yourself. Will you be able to live with it? It's really your decision. How strongly shall I believe it? How much trust shall I put into it? It's not going to happen just by deciding, well, I'm going to do it. But you should first know that it's there. You don't learn to swim also in one instant reading the instructions how to swim. A person that doesn't know how to swim, a person like me, I read the instructions how to swim, get into the water. It doesn't work the same way. Or many other things. It takes limud, islamdus, practice. And you get into it. Everything is like that. You practice, you get into it. But you heard about it. You know, there's such a thing called swimming. Such a thing called Bitachon. Such a thing called riding a bike. You learn how to do it. How much will you do? It depends. Well, people ride a bike, some people ride around the block. Some people ride in the, what's it called? Something of France.
Tour.
The what?
Tour de France.
What's the first word?
Tour. Tour de France.
I can't hear the first word.
Tour.
The Tour de France.
Tour de France.
At least I know how to pronounce it. Tour de France. So you've heard it. There's such a thing called the New York State Marathon. There's such a thing called Bitachon. Does everybody run the marathon? No. Those who run the marathon are very happy that they do. It's hard to go through life without Bitachon, if you want to know the truth. At this point in life, it's pretty easy. You get on in life, it becomes very difficult. I was home now, and the whole family was aufgekocht about a shidduch for one of my granddaughters. This one says, I don't know if he's a good boy for her. This one says this, one says that. If you have Bitachon, chill out. I'm not happy with this. I don't think he's kind. Oh, the other one says, but he has a good reputation. I said, what do you mean, who gave the reputation? Chill out, man. Shidduchim b'sheret. If he's b'sheret, she's going to like him, he's going to marry him. Well, no matter what he is. And he'll have a choice whether he's going to be a mensch or not a mensch. If it's not b'sheret, he can be a diamond, she'll never get him. In fact, you told me who wanted him and he didn't get him. You just told me in the conversation. Oh, somebody wanted for his daughter and didn't get him. Why didn't you get him? Oh, you didn't get him because he wasn't rich enough. No, that's not the reason. She didn't get him because it wasn't b'sheret. Why are you rich? Also because of b'sheret. Why are you... These are things that are gifts from heaven to you, don't you understand? So that's what it says here, that there are many possibilities, and the Baruch Hashem picks out for the person the possibility that's appropriate for them. If the North won the Civil War, and it has to do with George Pickett's charge up that hill, I forgot the name of the hill, I forgot my Civil War history. The reason I remember it is because every summer there's a reenactment about a quarter of a mile from Camp Panos of that. There's the camp out, these people all dressed in Civil War costumes, men and women, period costumes. And then they have that, on the third day, they have this charge up the hill. I think they charge $12 to come and watch it. And the guys, fake that they were shot and they fall down on the way. And they have these cannons going boom, boom, boom. On that hill every summer in July. So I've gone to see it. That's why I know about it. It's interesting to watch. It's nice to watch. Take the kids along. It's one of the kosher things you can do. Not too many. So she brought it at that time. Hired that tzibur nosen lo klum. So the tzibur gave him nothing. He asked him, aren't you afraid of what the tzibur's giving you? You're taking too much from the tzibur? You're emptying out the kitty that other poor people haven't got a piece of bread? Aren't you afraid of that? He didn't get the bread from he didn't get the chicken from the tzibur. He got it from Rava's sister. And Rava decided to give it to him. It was really Rava's gift. And Rava decided to give it to him because Rava was overwhelmed by what looked like a coincidence. It was just too much. So Rava said, this is for you. Obviously. This is not for me, it's for you. Doesn't make any other sense. Rava believed God runs the world. And when such a thing happened, he said, oh, it's for you. I just asked you a question. Aren't you afraid that you're emptying out the treasury of the tzedakah when you live that high on the hog? That's an expression I shouldn't use in Yeshiva. When you live that high and mighty, you say, aren't you afraid you're emptying out the cup? Here, there was nothing empty out. Rava's sister brought it. And Rava said, I know it was brought for you. El Adarabba. Nebi Yosai, Higil at Tzibur al Yodoi. The Tzibur benefited because they didn't have to give him anything. So the Tzibur really benefited because they had Bitachon. So they saved his meals, which they would have given him. It's very possible the guy didn't finish the whole chicken. So Rava ended up eating it anyway. What does that mean? The guest himself is not going to eat everything. Not only didn't take from anybody else, but he gave them. Because of him, Rava had a piece of chicken he wouldn't have had. Good chicken too, man. It was good chicken, good wine. I'll tell you. I've told you before, I'll tell you again. When you get older, you repeat yourself. My father had three first cousins, girls. Got married at a very late age and didn't have children. Only one had children because they got married so late in their lives. I don't know why they got married. That I wasn't wise enough, old enough, mature enough to know what took so long for them to get married. And the older one was called Fagel. And her husband, she married a guy and he died. And the youngest one was called Gittel. And Gittel's husband was alive, Morris. Louis, I'm sorry. Louis Morris's last name. Louis was alive. And they lived in one apartment in Brooklyn, near Coney Island. I forgot what it's called. Bensonhurst, maybe. He lived in an apartment in Bensonhurst, most of it is. And they lived there in an apartment. So there's a couple-room apartment, and Fagel's husband died, so Fagel lived with them. And Fagel was much older, and she was sick. And Gittel took care of her all the time. Gittel had a husband, and they lived together, 3 people in an apartment. And Gittel took care of Fagel. I know the people personally. My father's cousins, I was close with them. And then Fagel died. I went to Menachem Oval, they sat there, and I talked to Gittel. And I said to Gittel said to me, you know, she said, I need a hip surgery to replace my hip, I can't walk. I know she was using a walker, and she was this. She said, now that Fagel's gone, she said, I'm going to do the hip surgery. All these years, it's so painful for me. She said, I put it off because Fagel's alive. What should I do? Somebody has to take care of her. But now I'm going to do the hip surgery. And within that month, she had the surgery. And I picked some flowers. Wasn't by a florist, but around my house they used to grow roses. And they smelled, not like the ones you get from a florist. They had beautiful perfumes to them. But they have stickers. And I wrapped them up with aluminum foil. I made a nice thing out of it. And I went to see Gittel in the hospital. I went to see Gittel in the hospital. So outside the room, I met Louis, Gittel's husband. He was just a wreck. Louis, what happened? Gittel just died. I went to see her in the hospital. She just had the surgery before Shabbos, and I went on a Sunday. About 3 days after surgery, 2 days after surgery. And she just died. I was shocked. We were all shocked. I didn't take back the roses. I left it there. The nurses used them. Took them home. What happened was that they served her, she was on a kosher diet, of course, they served her a bagel and cream cheese for breakfast. It was too much for her. She was feeling weak. So she left over for, Louis going to come lunchtime to visit her husband. He'll have the bagel and the cream cheese. Meanwhile, part of the bagel was cut. She took a piece of the bagel and she put it in her mouth, and she choked and died in an instant. And they made a code blue throughout the hospital, code blue. And they came running from every side with defibrillators and mices and dosinyas. And she was gone, that's all. She was gone. She was unconscious when I came. Her eyes were open, but she was dead already. At Levaya, they asked me to say something. You know what I said? I said, we would think that all these years Gittel kept Fagel alive. She did. But actually Fagel was keeping Gittel alive. So you think that Rabbi got Shirayim from the Oni because, you know, the Oni left over, didn't eat everything, and he left over and he got Shirayim from him. He didn't get Shirayim from the Oni. He wouldn't have had anything to eat without the Oni. It was the Oni's food. The Oni made Rabbi have something to eat, gave him something to eat to Rabbi. Because without the Oni, the sister would never have come. We don't know who's keeping who alive. There's a question, you take a look at Moshe's has a tshuva on life insurance. Because a very serious chalukei deis about whether you should buy life insurance. One opinion holds you should not buy life insurance. But Moshe says, he writes a tshuva, you're allowed to buy it. But somehow you shouldn't buy life insurance. Why? Because as long as you're supporting your family, so it's a zchus that keeps you alive. But if your person dies, you lose over $250,000, $500,000 in policy, so they don't need him in the first place. That's why he died. We don't know who's keeping who alive in this world. There's that issue. Maybe you're committing suicide when you buy a life insurance policy. We don't know. He doesn't know for sure. He says it's possible that the Rava had a piece of chicken because of the Oni, not only had a piece of chicken because of Rava. But the bottom line is, the Hashem runs the world, whether we're holding B'Sach Madreiga or not holding B'Sach Madreiga. Hashem runs the world. We have to know that. After you remember that, chazar into your mind. God runs the world. He runs the world. And everything we have is a gift from Him. If you live another day, as Clara says in the hospital, she said, another day, another gift from God. That's what it is.